My girlfriend kept saying relationships take work, but somehow the work always meant I had to be calmer, quieter, more patient, and more understanding. Never her. I'm 29. My girlfriend, Leah, is 27. We have been together for almost 2 years. When we met, I thought I had finally found someone who understood me. We moved slowly at first, then very fast. Same humor, same plans, same idea of what a home should feel like. At least, that is what I thought. Leah had been through a lot before me: a bad relationship, family issues, anxiety, a constant fear that people would leave her. I knew that early. I did not judge her for it. Honestly, I admired how honest she was about her struggles. She was in therapy, she took medication, she could talk about her feelings in ways I had never seen before. That made me think things would be different. If someone knows their patterns, I thought, they can work on them. And to be fair, she did try. That is what makes this hard. She was not some heartless person. She could be loving, funny, warm, deeply affectionate. There were nights when I looked at her and thought, this is the woman I am going to marry. Then there were days when I felt like I could not breathe in my own life. It started with jealousy. At first, small things. A woman liking one of my posts, a coworker laughing too much at something I said, an old photo in my phone from before we met. Leah would get quiet, then sharp. Then she would ask questions in a voice that made every answer sound suspicious. I learned to explain myself before she even asked. That should have been my first warning. One time we were in a bookstore. I picked up a novel from a display and said I had read it years ago. She asked how I knew it. I said an ex gave it to me for my birthday when I was 22. That was it. 5 minutes later, Leah was crying in the history section because apparently I had kept emotional attachments to women from my past. I said, it was a book, Leah. She said, it is never just a book. Another time, we were joking with her parents about baby names. I said I liked the name Claire. She froze. Then, in front of her parents, she asked, wasn't Claire the girl you talked to before me? Her mother looked at me like I had done something wrong. I said, I knew one person named Claire 6 years ago. Leah said, so you admit it. I remember staring at her across the table, realizing there was no safe answer. After every incident, she apologized. She said she knew it was her anxiety. She said she would bring it up in therapy. She said she did not want to hurt me, and I believed her because I wanted to believe progress was happening. But progress started to look like this. She exploded less often, but I still lived prepared for explosions. She apologized faster, but I was still the one recovering afterward. She knew the behavior was unfair, but somehow I was still expected to survive it while she learned. Then came the micromanaging: how I loaded the dishwasher, how I folded towels, how I cooked pasta, how long I spent in the bathroom, how I responded to messages, how I held a screwdriver while fixing the closet door. Nothing was ever huge by itself. That was part of the problem. If I complained, it sounded petty. But being corrected 10 times a day turned your home into a workplace with no lunch break. For a while, I was staying at Leah's apartment because mine was being renovated. The plan was that once my place was finished, she would move in with me. At first, that sounded exciting. Then it started to feel like a deadline, like I had a few weeks left before this temporary exhaustion became permanent. I work remotely, so I was in her space all day. She had quit her job a few months earlier because it was destroying her mental health. I supported that. I really did. She was burned out. She needed a break, but the break had no plan, no timeline, no applications, No real next step. Her parents sent her money. I paid for most dates, most groceries, most shared expenses. She cleaned more, yes, but I was carrying the future: rent, savings, my job, the move, the pressure of building the life we kept talking about. Every time I brought this up, she would say, I'm trying to heal. And I would feel guilty because what kind of person argues with healing? But after months of this, I started wondering where healing ended and avoidance began. The actual turning point was embarrassingly ordinary. I was repairing a cabinet door while Leah was supposed to be watching her niece for the afternoon. Her sister had dropped the kid off because Leah said she wanted practice with children. I was in the hallway with tools everywhere when I heard the kid calling from the bathroom door. Leah, Leah, I need help. The door was locked. Leah was inside on her phone. I waited a second, thinking she would respond. She did not. Then the kid started crying. I knocked and said, Leah, she needs you. Leah sighed, a full annoyed sigh, like I had interrupted something important. She opened the door, phone in hand, and looked irritated at me, not worried about the kid. I said, she was asking for help. Leah said, I heard her. I said, then why didn't you answer? She snapped, can I have 2 minutes to myself? That sentence hit me harder than it should have, because if the roles were reversed, I knew exactly what would happen. If I had ignored a child calling for help because I was scrolling in the bathroom, Leah would have called it selfish, careless, a red flag. But when she did it, I was supposed to understand she was overwhelmed. I said, you would destroy me if I did what you just did. She stared at me. Then she said, that's different. I asked, how? She did not answer, just walked past me and helped the kid. But the silence answered enough. That night, I brought it up gently, probably too gently. I said I was struggling with the double standard. I said I felt like I was not allowed to be human in the same way she was. She immediately got defensive. She said, so now I'm a terrible person. I said, I didn't say that. She said, you always make me feel like I'm failing. I said, I'm trying to tell you that I'm exhausted. She said, well, now I feel like I'm under observation. And suddenly we were talking about her feelings again. That was the pattern. Every time I tried to describe what something did to me, the conversation became about how hearing it affected her. If I said I felt drained, she felt attacked. If I said I needed quiet, she felt abandoned. If I said I needed help, she felt judged. If I said I was unsure about moving in together, she said I was avoidant. Eventually, there was no way to speak without becoming the villain. A week later, we went on a road trip with friends. I hoped being around other people would help. It did not. Leah corrected me in front of everyone because I packed the cooler wrong. Then she got upset because I was quiet. At a gas station, my friend Marcus asked if I was okay. I said I was just tired. He looked at me for a long second and said, you've been tired for months. That almost broke me because he was right. On the drive home, Leah asked why I seemed distant. I said, I don't feel peaceful anymore. She got quiet. Then she said, so you're leaving me? I said, I'm telling you I'm not okay. She said, that sounds like leaving. I said, no, that sounds like you hearing my pain only as a threat to you. We fought for hours after that. She said relationships are about repair. She said people do not just leave when things get hard. She said I was focusing on the negative. I finally said, repair cannot mean I keep absorbing damage while you keep promising to improve. She cried. I cried too, which I almost never do, but I did not take it back. Update 1. My apartment is finished now. I moved back in alone. Leah did not take that well. She said I was creating distance. I said, I am creating space to hear myself think. That made her angry, but it was true. For the first time in months, I slept without a headache. Update 2. We are still technically together, barely. She wants couples counseling. I agreed, but I also told her I will not discuss moving in together until we have months of actual stability. Not apologies, not promises, stability. She said that feels unfair. I said, what felt unfair was being expected to gamble my peace on your potential. Update 3. My parents think I should give it more time. Her friends think I am abandoning her during a mental health recovery. Marcus told me privately that I look better after 2 weeks away. That hit me more than anyone else's opinion because I feel better too. And that scares me. I still love Leah. That is the part people never understand. Love does not always disappear before leaving becomes necessary. Sometimes love is still there, but your body starts telling the truth before your heart is ready. I cannot keep calling a relationship healthy when peace only exists if I never bring up my own pain. And I cannot build a future with someone who treats accountability like abandonment. Maybe I am avoidant. Maybe I am tired. Maybe I am finally listening to the part of me that has been begging for quiet. I do not know if we will survive this, but I know I am not moving her into my home while I feel relieved that she is not there. That has to mean something.